Hi everybody. Today I'm going to do a demonstration of an example of a lecture. Hi everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to demonstrate CART for a computer science lecture. In the last video, I talked about how CART captioning is a nerd's dream job, and sometimes you just don't know what you're hearing, but you have to get all the words. It's like the saying that goes, you can't see the forest for the trees. Well, in this case, you can't see the forest, the meaning of the whole lecture, for the trees, the individual words, but as a stenographer, you have to pay attention to each tree and get it down correctly. For today's demonstration, I'm going to use excerpts from 2 operating systems lectures on YouTube. In the description of this video, you can see the links for those lectures and use them for your own practice material. In fact, you can go to YouTube and type in any subject matter plus the word lecture and find videos to practice from. The first lecture is a man who's speaking with an American accent at a comfortable pace. The second lecture is a woman speaking with a British accent at a faster pace. In fact, on a real job this semester, I'm captioning for a Chinese professor with a Chinese accent who speaks way faster than both of them. From this demonstration, you'll get an idea of the type of vocabulary used in the lecture and how I'm hanging on without understanding what the words mean. So we have to get the trees without understanding the forest or seeing the forest. Okay, so now let me go to YouTube and share that. Hour 1 minute 23:01. I'm starting on this first video called Introduction to Operating System, Full Course for Beginners by Mike Murphy, Lecture for Sleep and Study. We're starting at hour 1 minute 23.
Occur is when something called an interrupt happens. And an interrupt is simply a situation in which the currently executing code is interrupted so that an event can be handled by the operating system. Interrupts can fall into 2 categories. You can have involuntary interrupts, which are external to running processes. These consist of things such as I/O interrupts, which are generated every time you press a key on the keyboard or perform any other I/O task. Clock interrupts, which are timer mechanisms that can be scheduled to go off at a particular time. And page faults, which have to do with the virtual memory subsystem. Interrupts can also be voluntary, in other words, created by a process that's running. System calls and exceptions, such as segfault or divide by 0 actions, can result in interrupts as well. And the CPU provides hardware mechanisms for detecting when an interrupt is occurring and handling the interrupt. So in summary, multi-programming systems allow multiple applications to run simultaneously. Implementing multi-programming requires support from the hardware. In particular, we need CPU privileges, we need a clock, and we need some kind of interrupt handling mechanism. The CPUs used in multi-programming systems need to have at least 2 privilege modes. Intel x86 systems support 4 or 5 modes depending on the processor. Mode switches can be expensive in terms of performance, so we don't want to do them more than necessary. And interrupts enable hardware events to be delivered to applications, and they allow applications to yield control of the system while waiting for events or waiting for services. In this lecture, I'm going to discuss kernel architectures. I'll begin by introducing the functions of the kernel, explain the separation between mechanism and policy, talk about some seminal early kernels in the history of computing, and then introduce the differences between monolithic kernels and microkernels. A kernel provides two functions, the same two functions in the operating system. It provides abstraction and arbitration. The kernel provides abstraction in the sense that it provides a mechanism for programs to access hardware, a way to schedule multiple programs on the system, and it provides some method for inter-process communication, or IPC, a way for programs to send messages to each other or send messages to hardware devices or out to the network. Kernels also provide abstraction mechanisms. They ensure that a single process or running program.
Okay, this second video I'm going to start at 5 minute 53, and I'm going to slow her speed down to 80%. Okay.
Simple and consistent. However, the actual physical location in computer memory is hidden and abstracted by the operating system. Just a new level of abstraction. Let's take our example program B, which has been allocated a block of memory from address 1000 to 1999. As far as program B can tell, this appears to be a block from 0 to 999. The OS and CPU handle the virtual to physical memory remapping automatically. So if program B requests memory location 42, it really ends up reading address 1042. This virtualization of memory addresses is even more useful for program A, which in our example has been allocated two blocks of memory that are separated from one another. This too is invisible to program A. As far as it can tell, it's been allocated a continuous block of 2000 addresses. When program A reads memory address 999, that does coincidentally map to physical memory address 999. But if program A reads the very next value in memory at address 1000, that gets mapped behind the scenes to physical memory address 2000. This mechanism allows programs to have flexible memory sizes, called dynamic memory allocation, that appear to be continuous to them. It simplifies everything and offers tremendous flexibility to the operating system in running multiple programs simultaneously. Another upside of allocating each program its own memory is that they're better isolated from one another. So if a buggy program goes awry and starts writing gobbledygook, it can only trash its...
Okay, so that is today's demonstration. You see how she's talking about a bunch of stuff, and I don't understand anything she's saying, but I have to get down all the words. Her accent's throwing me off a little bit too. I don't usually have British accents to cover for my STEM classes. Okay. So until next time, happy practicing.